Flowisdom presents Designing Your Life: How to Build a Well-Lived Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. Book summary.
Designing Your Life: How to Build a Well-Lived Life. Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans offers time-tested advice for becoming the best version of yourself possible. The advice here can help even if you are already fairly happy with your life. Their website also contains useful resources and supplements to the book. Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. Bill is the executive director of the Stanford Design Program and co-founder of the Life Design Lab. He is also a former leader of Apple's PowerBook product line and CEO of a design consultancy. Dave is co-founder of the Life Design Lab, a lecturer in the Stanford Design Program, a management consultant, and formerly a co-founder of Electronic Arts. Introduction. Since only 27% of college grads end up in a career related to their jobs, it's clear that most end up designing their careers and all need to design their non-career life. While this book is for all of us, it's the 2/3 of workers unhappy with their jobs and the 15% who hate their work that need it the most. Life is full of problems, and solving them is what design is all about. A well-designed life is constantly creative, productive, changing, evolving, and there is always the possibility of surprise. Life, then, is about designing something that has never existed before. Keep in mind that passion is something you develop after you try something and get good at it. A key point is to never measure yourself against anyone. The 5 necessary mindsets covered are: 1. Be curious. 2. Try stuff. 3. Reframe problems. 4. Know it's a process. 5. Ask for help. 1. Start where you are. You need to know where you are and what design problems you are trying to solve. In design thinking, the authors put as much emphasis on problem finding as problem solving. Deciding which problems to work on may be the most important decisions you make. The authors define a class of problems known as gravity problems. These are problems like trying to overcome gravity in that they are not actionable and therefore can't be solved. The key is to not get stuck on something you have no chance of succeeding at. At the heart of this chapter is an activity that lets you take stock of your current status. You are asked to rate from 0 to 100 how you feel about the criteria of 1. Your health. 2. Your work. 3. Your play. And 4. Your love. As far as love is concerned, you should consider all the different types of love you experience, not just love from a spouse or significant other. When you complete this task, you will have a framework and some data about yourself. Next, you are asked to answer these questions. 1. Write a few sentences about how it's going in each area. 2. Ask yourself if there's a design problem you'd like to tackle in any area. 3. Ask if your problems is a gravity problem. 2. Building a compass. The activity here is to write down your work view and your life view. They suggest about 250 words each or less than 1 page. The work view should focus on what work is for, why you do it, what makes work good, and how it impacts others. Your life view is your ideas about the world and how it works, what gives life meaning, what makes it worthwhile, and what makes it satisfying. With that done, it's time to see if there is coherence between the two. Ask where your view on work and life complement each other and where they clash. Does one drive the other? These two views create your compass, as they will help you know if you are on course. When they are aligned, they give you your true north, which you can follow. 3. Wayfinding. Wayfinding is the ancient art of figuring out where you are going when you don't know your destination. This requires that you pay attention to the clues in front of you. The first 2 are engagement and energy. Engagement comes at various strengths. Flow is when you are so engaged that it's almost euphoric. This is where work seems like play. As for energy, some activities sustain it and some drain it. Boredom, for example, is a big energy suck. It's important to be aware of when your engagement and energy are up and down. The reason is that the next exercise is to create your good time journal. This is where you log your daily activities with notations regarding engagement and energy. Every week, take time to reflect on which activities are engaging and energizing and which are not. The AEIOU method is one you can use to help. A stands for the activities you are doing. E is for environments where your activities take place. I is for interaction, as in the people you were interacting with. O are the objects you were interacting with. U is for users, who are the other people who were there and the roles they played. Your past is waiting to be mined for insights too. Try to remember your peak experiences from your past, even if they took place a long time ago. The other key piece of advice is to get good at what you don't like to do. This will allow you to do it quickly and efficiently. If you are bad at these things, you may find that you have to do them over. 4. Getting unstuck. The key point in this chapter is to ideate, ideate, ideate. This is a fancy word for coming up with a lot of ideas. Quantity has a quality all its own. Many people make the mistake of chasing their first idea, which usually isn't the best idea. They tend to be pretty average and not too creative. The trick is to suspend judgment until you get lots of ideas out. The techniques of mind mapping are demonstrated. This is where you take a topic and write 5 or 6 things that are related on a big piece of paper. You then draw 3 or 4 lines from each and use free association to generate words associated with the original words. You then repeat this process until you have at least 3 kinds of word associations. Then stand back and highlight the words that seem interesting and see if you can mash them together into a few concepts. Next, we encounter anchor problems. Like a physical anchor, they hold us in one place and prevent motion. It happens when you get anchored to a solution that won't work. This is where sticking to a bad first idea comes in. It's key to recognize when you are dealing with an anchor problem, so you can work to reframe it. An anchor problem isn't a gravity problem. It's just a real problem that is hard. Gravity problems aren't problems. They are circumstances. Now it's time to take items out of each section of the Good Time Journal you created in Chapter 3 and submit them to the mind mapping exercise described here. 5. Design your lives. Lives is not a typo. In life, you get endless mulligans. Start by not thinking that there is one best way to spend your life. The activity here is to design 3 Odyssey plan alternatives. Studies show that pursuing multiple ideas in parallel is better than taking one at a time. If you start with just one idea, you may be stuck with it. The plans you develop should have a 5-year horizon and be really different. The first plan will be centered on what you already have in mind. Life 2 should be what you would do if Life 1 were suddenly gone. Life 3 is what you would do if money or image were no object. This one might be a little wild. For each plan, you have to judge if resources are possible, how much you like the idea, how confident you are that you can do it, and how much sense it makes. When you do this, try to share with a group of 3 to 6 for feedback and ideas, but not critiques or unwanted advice. 6. Prototyping. As you design your life, a key piece is doing small experiments that can either lead you forward or let you discover dead ends. This is called prototyping. Prototypes must involve a physical experience in the real world, not just thought experiments. It also requires collaboration or contact with others. As part of the process, you want to have life design interviews. These as conversations with people who are doing what you want to try. They should not be structured like job interviews. Ask what they love and hate about their job and how they got there in the first place. Prototypes can be as simple as a day shadowing a person. They can also be a week of volunteer work or some sort of internship. Remember that people enjoy being helpful. If you are having trouble coming up with a place to start, the authors suggest that you engage in a brainstorming process with a handful of your peers. The authors provide the basics of brainstorming here in case you aren't conversant with the process. 7. How not to get a job. This chapter is a reality check regarding the fact that a lot of current hiring practices are dysfunctional. First, most great jobs are never publicly listed. They go to people inside the organization or outsiders who know someone inside. For jobs that are posted, the descriptions tend to be very generic. They tend to be based on the skills of the previous holder and doesn't consider the fact that jobs tend to change. Sometimes they add skills looking for a super version of the previous employee. They may contain caveats that indicate that at least part of the job sucks if you read between the lines. With these warnings in hand, the authors do give some useful advice. Since resumes are often processed by a computer, be sure your resume contains the same words the company uses. This will increase the probability that your resume will survive keyword searches. If you do get an interview focused on how your skills fit what they are looking for. If you talk about other talents, you will come across as unfocused. If a company has already put 8 or more through the ringer, it's a sign that the company might not be a great place to work. Top companies usually reject some top candidates in order to avoid hiring a bad one, so don't be discouraged. Try to show empathy to the hiring manager and focus on this person's need to find the right person. 8. Designing your dream job. Only 20% of jobs are posted anywhere. This means that most of the job market and almost all of the best jobs are hidden. Here is a story of one man who conducted 56 life design interviews discussed in Chapter 6. By doing he receives 7 job offers. He didn't ask for any jobs. He merely asked for people's life stories. Sometimes he was offered a job without asking. When he did ask, he framed the questions like this. I wonder what steps would be involved in exploring how someone might become part of this organization. Don't say you have any openings. That's a yes/no question, whereas the previous questions is open-ended. In order to find people to interview, you need to ask directions. Reach out to people you know and people you don't know and ask. The internet can help here, and the authors recommend you try LinkedIn to find the type of people you are looking for. Dream jobs may not exist, but good enough jobs do. 9. Choosing happiness. The secret to happiness in life is learning to choose well. Keep in mind, there is no right choice, only good choosing. The recommended choosing process has 4 steps. Start by gathering options. Next is narrowing your choices to the top alternatives. Then you choose, and finally you move on without agonizing over the choice you made. As you do this, make use of the tools you created in the previous chapters. Workview, LifeView, Odyssey Plan, and Prototype Conversations. The authors recommend you narrow your options to 5 or less. During your effort, be sure to use intuitive and emotional thinking along with your cognitive efforts. Also add social knowing and kinesthetic knowing as well. You need to understand your options deeply. To do this, you think for a few days that you are the person who made each one of your decisions. For 3 options, considered deeply for 3 days each, you will need to set aside 9 days. As for letting go, don't get caught with your eyes fixated on the rearview mirror of decision regret. This can be hard to do, so focus on enjoying your choice fully. Don't dream about what could have been, and don't waste your future for hoping for a better past. 10. Failure immunity. The key point here is that if you are designing your life, you can't be a failure. Once you understand this, you will have the kind of failure immunity the authors describe here. Recall that the failures you encounter and expect happen during the prototyping process, which features low exposure. Life is a process, not an outcome. The authors point out that there are finite games like chess or a spelling bee and infinite open-ended games like life design. By reframing failures, you transform setbacks and head toward a happier life. Failure is just the raw material of success. There are 3 types of failures. 1. Screw-ups are simple mistakes about things you normally get right. 2. Weaknesses are mistakes you make over and over again. Your best bet here is to try to avoid these situations. 3. Growth opportunities are mistakes that don't have to happen again. They are identifiable and fixable. These are the failures where we should direct our attention, as there is low return spending time on types 1 and 2. To help with this, the authors suggest you keep a failure log. This log contains a list of failures and notes which kind it is. For those of type 3, there is a column labeled Insight where you indicate what you learned and might try next time. 11. Building a team. While you may think that you are designing your life, at no step are you doing it alone. If you think back on previous activities in this book, you will recall that other people are involved along the way. Life design, by definition, is an act of collaboration. People are key to all of your prototypes. While some people along the way are more important than others, everyone matters. Your team will contain supporters who are people you can count on to care about your life. Their feedback is of real use. Players are more active in your life design. These are people you actually do things with. The closest members are intimates. They are your immediate and extended family and your closest friends. At times, they can be too close as they have their preferred results. They are also the best helpers you could ask for. Don't keep them in the dark. There is also advice about mentors here that is useful for both mentees and mentors. We should all seek mentors, but we need to pay attention to what they say. Advice usually focuses on what the mentor would do if she or he were you. There is nothing wrong with listening to advice. Just be careful about taking it. If you do take it, make sure it's coming from an expert on the topic. Counsel is aimed at helping you figure out what you think. Good counsel should leave you with a clearer and more settled state of mind. Mentoring should be centered on giving counsel. It should feature lots of questions and paraphrasing your answers. Good mentors spend most of their time listening.
This was released from For the Sake of Education by Flow Wisdom. If the content was helpful, make sure to subscribe.